At 48 years old, Floyd Mayweather is packing his bags to fight 59-year-old Mike Tyson in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is a fighter who retired with a pristine 50-0 record. He amassed an estimated $1.2 billion in career earnings, walking away with a widely reported $300 million from the Conor McGregor fight alone. Why does a man who completely shattered the financial ceiling of sports find himself desperately chasing exhibition checks in places like Athens, Greece? This trajectory, the transition from historic earnings to high-stakes maintenance, is the current operating reality of the United States government. Both the U.S. and Mayweather share a specific history. The post-World War II American economic boom generated historic, world-leading wealth. Much like Floyd's decade of untouchable megafights, they both stacked historical wins. But confusing past success with permanent invincibility is the fastest way to destroy a balance sheet. When the massive paydays slow down, the lifestyle trap snaps shut. The mega-purses stop arriving, but the massive fixed overhead, maintaining private jets, luxury car fleets, and entire entourages, demands cash every single month. A government operates the same way. America has its own permanent commitments: Social Security, Medicare, and a sprawling, untouchable global defense footprint. You can see this clearly at the state level. New York State is currently staring down a $27.3 billion budget gap. Yet politicians refuse to downsize zero-premium coverage in their essential plan, even as the federal aid that originally funded it dries up. Structural overspending is rarely driven by sudden greed. It is driven by the gravitational pull of promises and expectations that become too painful to shrink. There is a massive difference between reported career earnings and liquid cash flow. Floyd's liquidity stress is entirely public. He faced a $22.2 million IRS tax lien and a $100,000 a month rent dispute at the Baccarat Hotel that accumulated over $500,000 in arrears. He is also facing a lawsuit from AJ's Jewelry over $1.375 million in unpaid luxury goods, which includes 5 bounced checks. The operational bank accounts are tapped out. This chart shows the exact same burn rate applied to the U.S. federal government. In fiscal year 2024, the Treasury took in $4.919 trillion in receipts, but sent out $6.752 trillion in expenses. That creates a massive deficit gap of over $1.8 trillion in a single year. When we break this down into a ratio, the government is spending $1.37 for every single dollar it brings in. And as this red segment shows, the cost of carrying that debt is exploding, with net interest projected to devour $1.6 trillion by 2034. When your daily maintenance requires you to constantly borrow against your own future, you are no longer building wealth. You are simply fighting to fund your own illusion. Floyd's current string of exhibition fights is a deliberate strategy. He is monetizing his last premium asset, his name and his aura, to generate fast, immediate cash to cover his debts. The United States does the exact same thing when it repeatedly returns to the bond market to roll debt. It relies entirely on the historical, fading credibility of the American dollar to secure its next check. The scale of this reliance is immense. The Treasury expects to borrow $574 billion in just the first quarter of 2026 alone. We have to ask, are we still building real economic strength, or are we just repeatedly refinancing the image of strength? Floyd Mayweather has spent 25 years equating his value with the Money Mayweather brand. When Business Insider published an article suggesting his real estate portfolio was fake, he sued for $100 million. For an identity built on looking untouchable, admitting the machine is too expensive to run feels like a total collapse of self. A superpower faces the same psychological trap. Every entitlement program, every defense contract, has a core constituency attached, making any admission of a broken mathematical model feel like a catastrophic loss of national prestige. Instead of choosing reform, the system chooses narrative maintenance. They pretend the burn rate is normal to avoid disappointing constituencies, which turns emergency borrowing into a permanent daily habit. This is the prison of prestige, the confusion of the performance of wealth with actual sustainability. There is a critical difference here. The United States is not a washed-up boxer. It controls a printing press, and it can levy taxes. The top 1% of earners already pay 45.8% of all federal income taxes. The state possesses massive extractive power to delay its consequences. But that is exactly the paradox. This immense power to postpone discipline makes the macroeconomic danger far worse than any personal bankruptcy. The nation isn't facing an immediate foreclosure tomorrow. We're still living in the mansion, but the internal financial plumbing is decaying behind a luxury facade. A nation can survive smaller promises, but it cannot survive a permanent addiction to pretending the biggest payday is always one fight away.